All right, I think we're live. Hey, Carlos Rodella, we are live for our first in a long time food tech news catch up. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you? We're back.
We're back. We're both sitting here, and there's just some interesting stories this week that I felt we had to chat about, but just generally wanted to shoot the bull with you.
Which everybody
Long
says. That's a saying, right?
That's a saying.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep it PG. I could have said another word, but
I'm glad you did.
the cuss words will come out later, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you've been reading some of the stories we've been putting out, but also there's some other ones that have been floating across the ether that we'll get to.
Yeah.
But let's get to this first one. I'm going to show a picture. So people, we are actually experimenting with a new dude. We have 3 people watching in. So actually we do have some folks watching. But we're experimenting using StreamYard to record this for the first time. So we're going live stream, I think on YouTube as well as Twitter. But this first story, Carlos, this was a big deal. Keurig unveiled essentially their first ever plastic-free pods. It was a complete revisiting of their platform. And they, alongside that, they also introduced a new brewing platform called Alta. What do you think, man? Well, the reason I abandoned the Keurig was I was tired of throwing away all those plastic pods. I felt so guilty about it. So I feel like
Exactly.
this is gonna be a big deal for them.
Yeah, and it's like perfect time for people to, buy one of these if you've been on the fence. For me personally, I'm going to be doing this. Like it's responsible. I mean, all the food tech nowadays has to be thinking about the planet. You have to be. And I think just in general, yeah, just throwing things out all the time was annoying and not good. So I'm straight up gonna buy one.
People who have read The Spoon probably have heard of the company that they use for the technology. They partnered up with a company out of Switzerland, a company called Delica, and the platform is called Coffee Bee. And so
Hmm.
this was essentially a licensing deal where they licensed the technology, but also Kirk had a bunch of its own intellectual property that they tied in here. And essentially what the new pod is, it's shaped differently. If you remember what the old pod looks like, it's kind of
Yeah.
longer.
Hmm.
This one looks like a hockey puck
Yeah.
and
Puck.
it's flat, which is different than the Delica Coffee Bee because the Coffee Bee is actually a coffee ball. It looks like one of those little round chocolate balls. That's the one that is in Europe. The Keurig one is a hockey puck shaped thing. And the reason they made it hockey puck style is they wanted to be able to actually scan a code on top that allows the machine to understand what kind of brew it should make. So if it's a espresso or if it's a light roast, it can completely change the water pressure, the heating, etc.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I just like the form factor better. And
The hockey puck style versus the round ball or no
yeah,
the old Keurig pod.
yeah, better than that. And then just in general, again, like doing good for the planet and building technology that's smart for reuse,
More details on this for those who are wondering, like Carlos, who wants to buy this thing.
I'm definitely getting it.
They aren't gonna have it out on a full commercial release this year. They're putting it out in beta for some testers. So you might want to try and sign up for that to get on the trial. They haven't released pricing. They don't have the full release date yet. What they are releasing this year was the other news they dropped is they actually have another new brewer that actually has a technology called Quick Chill in it. And
Hmm.
this is actually the first ever Keurig that has built-in chilling for the coffee. They have a machine out now that basically they call a cold brew machine, but all it does is pour your hot coffee on top of ice. So nothing's right. You just put a cup under it with ice, and that's what they're calling their
Yeah.
iced coffee machine. This actually has built-in cooling, so it'll brew hot coffee at whatever 170 degrees, reduces it down to about 60 degrees by the time it comes out and pours on top of the ice. So you don't get that watered down ice effect
Right.
as you might get with the other one. So I think that's a cool one. That one's going to be out this year. So if you want to get their new cold brew flash chilling machine, you'll be able to get that, I think, by the end of this year.
So that one's out first. Yeah, I'm gonna have to join the beta program for the other one then because that does sound cool. But yeah, I just like the fact that they're changing it up. They've been around, they've been in the industry for a long time, and they're adding new things. But the chill thing, do you do that? Do you have that type of coffee? I wonder how popular that type of coffee is.
Well, I think, and I interviewed an exec from Keurig, and what she said is a lot of the younger folks are having cold brew, cold kind of iced coffee in their Starbucks when they're going out to coffee shops. But
Hmm.
there isn't a lot of machines to make it, at least in a single use form factor, a cold coffee. You
Got it.
can certainly brew a pot of coffee, put it in your fridge, but then it kind of it tastes a little bit old and it's not like fresh brewed. So I think what they're saying is this is a fresh brew machine. It chills in the machine and you have a cup of coffee that's cold.
Right. Yeah, I like that technology that it like brings it back down to what is it, 60 or something. So
Yeah.
it actually starts at super hot and then brings it back down. Yeah, you don't want to do it in your fridge. It's going to smell like fridge.
Yeah, I feel like my uncle used to take a pot of coffee. They'd always put it like he'd drink the same pot over a couple days. He put it in the fridge. So I don't want to be my uncle.
Yeah.
And this allows me to actually do fresh coffee that's chilled. They didn't give me a lot of details on the tech. I was asking them, what is the chilling? And they didn't release that information. I think there's a lot of technical details that we still have to uncover. But um, so if you're interested in this, I think this will be a new one for those who want to do single serve cold brew as well.
The additional slogan is "Don't be your uncle who puts coffee in the fridge.
Don't be your crazy
Don't
uncle.
be your crazy uncle."
All right. So this next story is a fun one. There was a company out of Spain, actually the Valencia region, which is doing a really cool countertop. They're doing a technology for countertops in the kitchen where you essentially can put any sort of appliance on your countertop and have it automatically powered. And they're also going to have in the countertop. So this can be just regular porcelain, like your normal kind of granite countertop. You can actually just put a pan down and it'll have induction heating built into the surface. So there'll be these cooking zones where you can get power and heat as well. And I haven't seen anyone put this out in North America yet. This seems like this technology, which I've been writing about for a while, has been talked about for a long time, but hasn't been reviewed. I'm going to add a little video here. Has a great guy. This guy's actually demoing it. So those of you
Yeah,
listening
this
in,
video is
probably
great.
you can't actually see it, but we'll describe it. You can see this guy if you're watching the video live stream, this really enthusiastic guy talking about how he's moving the pot around to get heat. And then he puts his hand on and says it's safe. So if you have kids, because it's induction, you're not going to burn your hand.
I love
And
that, by the way.
yeah. And as you can see, it just looks like a granite countertop, right? But it actually has built-in cooking zones into it.
Yeah, he says in the video that you can use lots of different types of surfaces. It just has to be a certain width, I guess, for them to put the technology in it. But like you said, it's so cool in the fact that you can literally have it be safe to the touch after it heated up something because of its like ability to go up and down in temperature. And like you said before, we cover it on the spoon a lot, just in general, this idea of, wireless and no cords and also just have the countertop be cooking things. But I think this is bringing it all together. They're also working with partners to build these countertops. So it's not just one company, it's Cloen with a couple other companies working together. And they said also in this video, if you don't want to actually buy their appliances, they have a little mat you can put down and then like your own appliance will work with it.
Yeah.
Like,
If you're
your
watching the
own dishes.
video, yeah, exactly. And if you're watching the video, you can see how he just put this blender on top of the counter and it's getting powered without any cord. So the power's coming through induction there. And the company partner, you mentioned the partners, they're working with a company out of Spain as well called Porcelanosa, I think is their name. They're also a Spanish company, one of the bigger countertop tile companies in the world, I think. And so they have a
Mm.
showroom in New York, so you can actually see it in a few cities. This actual technology in use in New York and a few other cities in North America. So for those of you who are nerds and know about this cordless technology, you probably know there's a standard out there in the works by the Wireless Power Consortium. The standard is called KI. They're playing on the name. I don't know if you know the wireless power technology for like charging your phone. That's
Mhm.
called QI.
Yep.
So their kitchen one's called KI. And so
I see what you did there.
yeah, yeah, I think it's but what's interesting is they're actually trying to go without actually doing the standard. They're kind of doing it all their own. They felt like the standard is moving a little bit too slowly. I think they got a big lift ahead of them trying to be a startup out of, Spain, trying to do everything without any sort of industry standard. But it's interesting to see them build this technology because they're going to be one of the first to market.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing. You first to market can be the winner of the game. But like you said, they do have an uphill battle in the fact that bringing all of it together. We've seen this time and time again on the show and just in general at the Spoon. How do you bring these technologies and have them work together? And then how do you take what people have at home already and have them utilize that? And then not to
Well, let me
mention
ask.
the standard, like you said too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So, do you think average everyday people will think this is cool, or do you think this is something some people, a lot of people would go, I don't want to cook on my countertop. I have a, a cooktop for that. I have cords I could plug into my wall. It's still yet to be seen if the average everyday consumer would embrace this stuff.
I have two answers for you. And I actually have thought about this. One, it's cost prohibitive, right? If it's the cost, that's what everybody's going to first answer. It's too expensive. They'll be like, oh, I can't do my whole countertop. Me personally, like you can actually see this if you're watching the video. My whole apartment is this room in my webcam, and my little countertop over there, it doesn't have room for what we just showed. Okay. It can't do it. So it's like structure, it's cost. That's probably first in people's mind. But the second thing is it's going to be that way in the future anyhow. Like it's all about early adopters, like you said, first to market. So it doesn't matter if we like it or not now. I think for the benefit of humans, it's going to be that way in the future. It seems like, but it's just right now. I think it's the cost. I think.
So you're saying that no matter what, this is the future direction. Like we're going to be doing away with cords. You think that these surfaces will just power things 10 years
Yeah,
from now?
100%. Yeah, 10. It could be even. It just depends on infrastructure. We always talk about infrastructure and pairing of technologies. But like if you look at your TV, quick tangent, and you look behind your TV, those cords, that's ridiculous. Like all that mess that's back there, that's not going to happen in the future. We're going to go wireless. And that's why there are, like you said, standards and stuff like that. But there's just too many cords in the world and they're going to go away.
All right.
You heard it here
So
first.
the story I wrote about this, I wrote about how this essentially is a result. It's not a result, but about 10 years ago, IKEA put out their vision of the future in 10 years. And it had this kitchen table that had a touchscreen interface on it that was projected from the ceiling.
Mm.
And then one of the cool things was that you were just putting dishes or bowls on your kitchen table and it was being warmed and powered by it. And so since that time, I feel like a lot of the people in the kitchen appliance space and in the kitchen furniture space have been thinking about this and working on this vision. But the reason I was excited to see this was it's the first time I've actually seen it all work together and actually out there in the market. And so we'll see. I mean, I hope this startup can get some real traction. It does seem like the standard's taken a while, although I've heard from the standards guys at the Wireless Power Consortium, we're looking at a release this year for the standard, but hey, good on these guys, man. They're moving a little bit faster than everyone else, punching above their weight.
That's the thing. The standards can be a big part of it. And also for our viewing audience, here's the future kitchen. There you go. In real time.
Where did you grab that
I just
from? What are we
in
looking at?
wireless future kitchen, and that's what they came up with.
All right.
It looks fine. And look, they're growing their own things for our video audience only. Okay.
All right. Well, let's see how I can present
Next
here.
story.
I want to do the next story. We're gonna go share screen, and actually, I'm having trouble finding. If you can actually present that overlay, I lost that whole screen of overlays.
Oh, which one are you doing? This one?
Yeah.
That one we are?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next story up is we're going to talk about Starbucks killing its NFT program. So I don't know about you, Carlos, but do you remember like 3 years ago when it seemed like every company was doing like some sort of Web3 initiative?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and Starbucks was one of them. About 2 years ago, they launched this Odyssey, their next generation loyalty program, and it was built around Web3, and it was only ever released in beta, but they're doing NFTs and the whole bit. So it was gamified, and if you were doing all the things, they called them journeys, all the little goals that you could achieve, you would get NFTs.
Oh my goodness.
Well, surprise, surprise. Today they announced essentially that they're shutting it all down. And I guess I'm not that surprised. It seems like Web3, at least from a corporate appetite perspective, most of these big brands have largely abandoned what they're doing in Web3.
Yeah. No, yeah, a lot of these NFTs are going away. and I actually didn't know that Starbucks did them, which is, I guess, a bad marketing thing there. And this, what we're looking at on the screen for the video, is people are saying like, what will happen to your points that you've made and all these things that you've accrued.
Accrued. Yeah.
Some things are still available, but yeah, you guessed it. Most of the stuff is pretty much gone, right?
Most of the stuff is pretty much
The Odyssey
gone. And
Marketplace was gone.
what they are doing is at least providing a transition. So they're saying if you have their NFTs that you won, you can actually find them on the Nifty Gateway Marketplace. Apparently,
Oh,
Nifty Gateways
nifty.
and Nifty's like an NFT marketplace, I think. And so all your rewards you got from Starbucks through this beta program will be tradable on that marketplace. Who knows if they're going to be worth anything? Maybe they will now because maybe they're going to be collector's items because this whole thing's
That's
getting
right.
shattered.
Yeah. By the way, Starbucks is still a huge brand, right? And if you have something from them, like you said, that's a collector's item, I think.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. So maybe ironically, they become more valuable now because Starbucks is shutting this whole thing down. So,
But I
who
mean, that
knows?
really does. It's a tangent we don't need to go on today, but the NFT market in general, right? It's like, whew, a lot of companies invested a lot of money and they're not doing them anymore. So,
Nope. All right. This next story is a lot of fun. We're going to actually show a video here of the probably one of the scariest things you've seen in a while. It's this new robot from the guys, a company called Figure, and they're actually integrating it with, I think, Chat GPT or
probably a
OpenAI
Chat
speech.
GPT Ultra kind of version. Yeah.
And as you can see, it's this robot. And the guy's asking him questions about what do you see here and where do you food. The robot picks up an apple, and it starts talking about the dishes. And this video, Carlos, has freaked a lot of people out for a couple reasons. It seems like the robot is very conversational, uses like a very human intonations. It seems like it reacts very quickly, like it's actually thinking and talking. But some people wondered if it's actually real, like if this whole thing was staged. And if you actually listen to it, it actually seems like it could be phony, but I think it's probably real.
Yeah.
Does this thing freak you out?
It doesn't. I'm a Mr. like embracer of the future. I'm a futurist. Remember, I think we've talked about that. And I enjoy it. I know, yes, I will fight alongside my humans if we need to, and Terminator happens. But in general, I am excited and embrace technology and want to work alongside it. So it doesn't scare me. And if anything, I've kind of been following AI and AGI for a while. It's 100% this is real. There's nothing like, nothing needs to be staged here because if you just use ChatGPT today or like for ChatGPT 4 Ultra, you have to pay to get to the best version. It does exactly, if not better, what you see the responses here. But the idea of them integrating it, kind of like to our previous story, with technology, with actual hardware, that's the story here. That's the real story. And I think that's been the hard thing to do. You have, what is it? What's the big one who makes the dog robots? Boston. Boston
Yeah,
Robotics.
which I think is owned by Google now.
Really? Okay. Well, it's all going to be one thing. Yeah. But like you can build a robot separately doing specific commands or with a literally controller, or you can build in that true AI/AGI, and then that thing is powering a robot. So yes, it can be scary in the fact that like we don't fully have an understanding of what our AGI is going to do and not do, and if we tell it to not do something, if it won't do that. But I think in general, that's what this is. It's like that first early pairing of what we've been utilizing essentially all the time right now with ChatGPT, and then putting it together with a robotic part.
It seems like all the companies, I think, including Elon's company, maybe it's Tesla that's doing the humanoid robot. They always seem to want to put it in the kitchen first, just like this figure robot was in the kitchen manipulating and doing dishes. It does seem like I don't know if it's because we as humans have been trained since Rosie the robot that figure like humanoid robots should be like doing our cooking for us, but it always seems
Yeah.
like they put them in the kitchen.
That's so funny because in our YouTube short that's going up soon on the Spoon's channel, you should check out YouTube, the Spoon. But I actually used the Jetsons reference and Rosie the robot. Yeah, for
How
sure.
original? How original, Carl?
What, did I use Jetsons? People don't even know what the Jetsons are. You'll learn from our YouTube short. But no, I think you're right. It's funny how much of, well, what is it? It's technology being utilized for how it can help us do our day to day stuff that we're just tired of doing. I think that's really what it is. Robot garbage people, is that the correct term? Garbage persons,
I don't know.
robot things that we don't want to do. I think
The
that's
hard
what
task.
the hard tasks, yeah, which a bunch of great men and women do right now, and I very much appreciate them. But if we can have some of the people doing that do other jobs and robots are doing it,
But if we could
again,
take if we could take robots and put these great hardworking people out of work, then why wouldn't we,
no, that's not,
Carlos?
see,
Is that
that's
what you're
not what I
saying?
meant. Here's by the way, let's really quickly go on this tangent because it's on top of mind for everybody when it comes to AI, robotics. I just think that we could. It's all down to what we want to do as a society, but we could just basically create a new, like the moment the Library of Alexandria happened and this kind of thinker moment. Like we could start building technology to help us and then not displace the jobs, but make new jobs that are more using our brain, which is, by the way, a not smart way to say that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we can create different, I think someone just said this in an article somewhere, like the new industrial revolution is smart people. It's like people using their brain, working with AI, working just in general with technology, they become the new winners, right? They become the new people who
I
understand
feel
how to
like
work
I
with them.
feel like that's what people who make robots will be telling us. Don't worry, we're all going to be doing smarter jobs because the
Smarter
robots will
jobs.
do the dirty work. What do you think they're going to be saying? That's exactly what they're going to say, though.
I know the
So
article, now that I come to think of it, was the robotic company. That was just, they did a post. It was a blog post. Now, I do think that though. I do really do think that, like, we can create new jobs from all this stuff.
well, I do think using automation and robotics in the home, particularly around use cases where people have limited mobility, and also, quite honestly, where I think like Sony's been doing a lot of research to use robotics in situations where people are aging and maybe helping them to live longer. I mean, it's not surprising that Sony's been focused on this. They've actually had a whole program where they're working with Carnegie Mellon to do robotics research around food. And a lot of the focus in Japan is figuring out ways to help people to live in place longer because that's like a very advanced country in terms of age and technology, obviously, but like they have like some of the oldest populations. So how do we get them to live in place for longer? And one of the hardest things when you're living in place older, you're living in your home, is actually cooking. It becomes dangerous because as you get older, you become more forgetful. A lot of the fires in the home start in the kitchen. And so a lot of
Mm.
kitchen fires are because people are just older and they're more forgetful. So if we can somehow use this automation, this robotics to help people live in place longer, I think that's at least one good application. So you have like a new picture you want to show us?
I'm just saying, like, all that's well and good. And unless, like, when they become military style, then we might have to fight them. All right.
So it's all on a trans basically on a journey, a continuum to mech bots, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically, when they get to they're carrying guns, lots of guns, and they're huge. It can be problematic. And by the way, that's already happening because the military definitely wants that future.
All right. So
Anywho,
this podcast won't always go into tangents, but when you see a crazy robot like that, we can't help it. So we have one more story we're going to cover. Um, I've been following this company for some time. It's a company called Bellwether, and Bellwether makes this really cool countertop electric coffee roaster. And they just debuted their newest generation one of them. And the whole idea here, Carlos, is can we take coffee roasting and make it something that Starbucks does in these giant warehouse buildings and bring it to the local coffee shop? Well, that's what Bellwether's hoping to do. And with their latest one, I think their new countertop coffee roaster is 15,000. Don't worry, that's not for you to pay at home. That's what what a coffee house would pay.
right.
And imagine if like all your coffee you bought was roasted there on the spot in your corner coffee shop, how much fresher it could be. Maybe they could do tailored brews. I mean, allows the barista and the shop owner to be much more creative from a artisanal creation standpoint. What do you think? Do you think the coffee shop, you spend a lot of time at Starbucks, do you think you're going to see some of these in your corner coffee shop?
Well, wait, so Starbucks, yeah, they're gonna do the Starbucks coffee, but the local coffee shop, it really does come down to cost, I guess. I don't know if that's affordable, the $14,000. Like, do we know if that's like a good price for a small shop?
Don't know. I imagine that if it's a high volume shop, possibly, but also what if it allows them to get into the coffee selling business? So you can become not only
Right.
a coffee shop, but you're also like, hey, you're selling Mike and Carlos's coffee blend, and we become coffee sellers in Seattle. So I don't know. I feel like it's something that allows people to maybe open a new line of business. It also is more sustainable. It's clean because like traditional coffee roasting, you couldn't do in a coffee shop because it uses fossil fuels. He emits a
Mm.
lot of like smoke or whatever. This is a much cleaner way to do it.
That's true too. Like, yeah, it's a clean way. It's efficient. I watched the video, which also we have a YouTube short up and Instagram reel and all that. Um, and in the video they showed how quick and easy it was, and it's 3 pounds of coffee in like 15 minutes. So it's not like you said they can actually like have a side business of selling coffee, fresh coffee. And made a joke in the video about like coffee isn't always the most fresh tasting sometimes, or you're throwing enough stuff in there that you're not even tasting the coffee. But this could change the game for it comes to, a more rich flavors and things like that. So,
I have to wonder also, I remember when the Pico Brew, rest in peace, came out. I don't know if you remember the original Pico Brew. It's one of these
oh yeah,
home beer brewing machines. And the first one was actually a machine that was pretty popular with brew pubs or even like small breweries in cities, craft breweries,
hmm,
because what it allowed them to do was essentially create coffee or create new IPAs or new beers without having to do a giant batch. I'm wondering if this is maybe a similar type of thing where if you're a, a coffee roaster and you have like big iron equipment, maybe you can use this to do your roasting, but with smaller sample sizes, essentially. So you can do little experiments saying, hey, I want to use this type of flavoring. I want to use this kind of bean. You don't waste a bunch if it goes wrong, and this just allows them to iterate and experiment more. Maybe
and
who knows?
yeah, I think so. And also the key that I just thought of is that one of the bigger complaints with the bigger coffee chains is that they don't experiment enough and try different things when it comes to flavors. And this could be a selling point for you to go to the local shop because now they have this new machine that they're trying all these different things with. Maybe you could pick your own because, like you said, and like I alluded to, it's quick, right? So it's maybe they can put in a certain combination and then do it more on the fly. Having your own personal type coffee, like they know it's the Carlos. When I come in, I go,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'll have the Carlos. You have the Michael."
Also, what if, I mean, this seems like an affordable way for someone who dreams of becoming a coffee roaster as a business to essentially get into it. And I don't know if they have flexible financing. Like there might be a way to actually pay for this on like a monthly installment plan, so you don't have to cough up 15,000. But imagine you have dreams of becoming a coffee roaster as a business. You can buy this on a kind of a 3-year installment plan. You're paying a few $100s a month, and you basically have all you need to basically start selling beans at your local corner grocery store, or maybe through the mail. I think this type of small scale, small batch coffee roasting machine that is bigger than something that goes in your home, but smaller than like the giant stuff you'd see in a Starbucks roastery. This might maybe launch, at least help the craft roasting business, craft roasting industry. I would
Yeah,
imagine that's an industry that this is an entry point for them.
yeah. Just like you said, it's like um, the beer and was it Pico Brew and stuff like all that kind of sparked that idea. Like, oh, I can actually do this at home now. I can actually pull this off. I can pull off brewing. I can pull off making wine, right? Um, and by the way, the machine isn't as big as I thought it was when I looked at the video. It's like, yeah, it's just that price point,
Well,
like you said. You need to
yeah.
be able to
So the
finance it.
small version you see there in that picture in the article I wrote, there's that small version, but they actually have an add-on if you want to do continuous roasting. It's basically a giant bean reservoir.
Yeah,
So
it's a
this
little
thing would
taller.
sit,
Yeah.
yeah, it just sit on a big cabinet of beans and would continuously pull them in. And so you could just get those. roasting going continuously, and then because your online store that you're going to set up for Carlos's coffee, you're going to need that, Carlos. You're going to need a pump through the beans.
I know. And I could put it right in this one room apartment of mine. Put it right here. I actually
Right there,
could. I
right
did look at
there.
the video. It isn't super huge.
It probably smell delicious.
Well, here's for our viewing audience. I have one more image before the show is over. And this is the inevitable future of what we're talking about. Barista robots. That's the next stage of this whole thing.
Well,
Right?
they're already kind of here, aren't they? I mean, there's one in Seattle already. I forget the name of it. Obviously, Cafe X has been around for a few years in San Francisco. But so you're saying this is going to replace every barista's job? Is that what you're saying, Carlos?
Man, I am not coming off as the good person in these conversations. No, I think that there's actually Starbucks is rolling out, and this I don't know if we've covered this story, but I don't know when they're rolling it out either. But they're making a machine that's just going to make the cold drinks for Starbucks. Because I go there every day, almost every day, and the cold drinks take forever for any barista. It doesn't matter how good they are to make because there's just so much random stuff and the ice and all that stuff. It's just annoying for them, even. And I think that if you take one thing off their plate, again, it doesn't replace their job, but it makes it easier. Almost to your point about, elderly people in the kitchen. If we can help, then let's help. And I think Starbucks baristas actually need it. I'm on the side of them because they're so amazing and deal with so much. Make the cold drinks in a machine.
All right. Hey, well, this has been a lot of fun. This has been our first time using StreamYard, at least for this podcast. I used to use it in the past for events, but we have about 27 people. I think we connected this to YouTube and Twitter, so maybe a few people are watching in. Hey, next time, guys, if you tune in, give us some comments. We'll try to answer some questions, but this has been a lot of fun. This will be out actually as a podcast and on our YouTube channel later as a recording. But Carlos, thanks a lot for doing this on Friday. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
No problem. And let's leave it with the future of humanity. Bye,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right.